Hey guys, it's Anth. I've had a few people ask me a couple of questions about Illustrator, so I thought that I might do a quick tutorial just showing you how I would do a logo using the pen tool, Pathfinder and the Align palette. So just have a look and follow along, and hopefully this might answer some questions that have been pinged my way. So in our Illustrator, I'm just going to set up a document. I'm going to create sort of just a logo. I'm going to have just a bit of an element with a pear, only because I'm eating a pear right now. I'm going to start with creating a pear shape. If I click Option, I can go to my ellipse tool. I'm going to hold Shift and drag, and I'm just going to do the top part, release. I'm going to go to my black arrow or V. I'm going to copy and paste in front, so copy, so Command C and then Command F for paste in front, and I'm just going to drag it down. If I hold Shift, it stays in the same horizontal or vertical alignment. So I'm just going to put it down a little bit lower. Just going to scroll him up. I'm going to hold Shift to keep him in proportion, and I'm going to hold Option, and that's going to make it expand from the center. So I'm just going to take it up to there. So what I've got is two sort of base shapes, and they're overlaying on top of each other. So I want you to go into your windows, make sure that you've got your Pathfinder and you have your Align and they're visible. Mine are over here in this palette here, so I've got Pathfinder over on the right. We've got shape modes and we've got Pathfinders. I'll explain those as we go along. And we've got our Align, so we can left align, right align, center and whatnot. So with these two shapes, I'm going to get them selected and I'm going to go into my Pathfinder tool. In my shape mode, I am going to click here, and I've just basically compounded the two shapes together. So using this Pathfinder tool, I've actually built those two shapes. So I'm going to go to my white arrow up here, my tool palette, and I'm going to actually see, I'm just going to click it so I can see where my points are. So because I've got these shapes in, I'm actually going to delete that. So in my pen, and my pen's here, I've got a minus. So I've just got Option, sorry, Control, and I can go to my minus, and that'll delete that anchor point. So I'm doing this so you get an understanding of why these points are really important, and getting these shapes and finding where these anchor points and why they are important. Sorry, I can't get my words together today. Down here, I'm just going to pull this and just make it into a little bit of a, make it a little bit more pear-y. So I'm just going to use some of these, the handles, and just manipulate them a little bit so it makes it look a little bit more of a pear. It's not so squarish. So by making sure I've got my white arrow, I can manipulate each anchor point and move that around. I still have also the ability to hold Shift, and I can move it in vertical and horizontal axis, undo. Or I can increment them with my arrow keys and just have a little play with them. So when I'm happy sort of with that sort of pear-y shape, which I'm not, yeah, I just have a little play, move him around. But the idea of these points and these paths and these handles just gives me the flexibility to move things around to the way I want it. So I can actually create my own custom shapes. So that'll do for now. I'm just going to make my black arrow, and I'm just going to scroll it down. I'm going to create a stalk. So I'm going to go to my pen tool again. If I go Control, I can go to the top one. I'm just going to go click. I'm going to move this up here, so I'm looking at, there's my cursor, and hopefully you still remember how do we use the pen tool from my previous Photoshop exercises. But I'm just going to create this. I'm going to hold Option, so I'm going to change direction and release, and then off the Option. Click here, and I'm going to click down here, and I'm going to pull that down, hold Option, and I'm just going to bring him back. So I'm going to close that path up. I'm just going to go to my white arrow, and I'm just going to manipulate those now so I can get that shape a little bit better. I can use my pen tool if I go to this anchor point. So my Shift and C actually means that I can manipulate that path, and I can actually manipulate that path by like customize it. So if I don't have the handles, I can move it around. Well, I'm pretty satisfied with that. Just going to change this because it's sitting on window view. I'm going to take off smart guides. That's annoying me. Smart guides were those little lines that kept popping up. And I'm going to snap. So it keeps showing, it feels like it's snapping to point. I'm just going to take that off. By snapping to point, it means that I can have a bit, when I don't have that selected, it means I get a bit more flexibility. So before, when I was doing snap to point, view, snap to point, it was just locking me into certain positions where I didn't want to go. So I've just made that a little bit, it just gives me a bit more flexibility to move without having to keep it onto the pixel. Okay, so there's my stalk. Happy with that. I'm just going to create a leaf. So I'll just put a point down. I'm going to plot that over here. I'm going to hold Option to change my direction. I'm going to go down here. I'm not going to close it yet. Make him look a bit leafy. Option, up here, and then back there. So just keep him there. That's my leaf. Rotate him a bit by pushing R. Copy, paste in front by Command F, click R, and rotate up another leaf there. So I can have multiple leaves and move things around, move objects around. So basically what I'm creating is just a little shape. Not sure if I'm a fan of that. Might flip him around. That's probably the problem there. Move it around. Don't need him. Delete it. Alrighty. So once you're sort of happy with your base shape, we can sort of start manipulating things around a little bit more. I'm going to drop my word in because I want to show you how to sort of play around with some text. So I'm just going to click T and I'm going to go type and I'm going to go P-E-A-R, pair. And I'm going to my text palette, I'm going to change the text to something pretty standard. Avenue. Might give it a bit of a heavy. Just going to scroll him up, or I can move him up by my points, but just going to scroll him up. What I'm going to do with this, I want to sort of edit this text so it looks a little bit, a little bit more customized. You can see we need some kerning things happening here. It's a little bit sort of, a bit off. So we're just going to customize our type. I might show you how to do that now. We'll just outline this type first. So we'll select the text and we go Command Shift O. So this is no longer live text. These are now objects and they all have a path. So we can't change the letter in here. So say if I spelt it wrong, like P-A-I-R, I actually have to reset that type. So this is now an object. It's no longer text. So the point about doing this is that I can actually go in now and I can manipulate some of these points. So remember when we created our pear shape, we had the two circles and I removed a point that made that sort of curve come in. I can do that here as well. So I can start moving and manipulating this text. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup them. So Command Shift G, ungroup. And so now I've got all separate characters. So I've got to think about these as their own single objects. Now because this is driving me nuts, I'm just going to bring that P in. So say if I want to customize this in a way, I'm just going to draw a rectangle or a square or just some sort of object because I'm going to break this up. So I've got two objects here sitting on top of each other. What I'm going to do in my Pathfinder is I'm going to go down into this bottom left icon. You can see it says divide. I'm going to use that and then click. Now what I've done, now if I go Command Y, is I've actually separated those objects into individual, ungroup, individual elements. So I've actually just sliced that P up, so it's no longer one big P object. I've actually just split it up. So I'll just delete that, I'll delete that, and I'll delete that. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually going to start manipulating this. I'm going to minus, so I'm going to use my pen tool and my minus, and I'm going to remove that point and remove that point. And then I'm going to align these 2 points here. So I'm going to select with my white arrow, or A is my keyboard shortcut. I'm going to select A, hold shift, hold the second one. I'm going to go to my align panel and I'm going to align that down. So same again, grab that one, so holding shift, grabbing the two, I'm going to align that up. Whoops, it didn't like that, did it? Up. So when I zoom out, I now have created my own custom P shape, so it's no longer part of that original text. I can continue doing this with the rest of my characters. So I'll do this exercise for the rest as well. So I'm just going to divide that and that. 1, 2, 3 objects. I'm just going to basically I'm just cutting it up. So I go to my Pathfinder, I go to my bottom left divide, click, and then I ungroup. So Command Shift G, and then select out. So cut him out, delete all those, you don't need those. And what I'm going to do with my pen tool, I'm going to go to my minus, I'm going to cut him, cut him, cut him. You probably don't need those. Cut that out. Okay. So I'm just going to even click and drag because I've only got the 2 points left and the right. Just click and drag's easy as well. Align and down. These 2 points, aligning up. These ones we're aligning down. So we're just repositioning where those points are going to sit. Because it's an E, they're not sitting together, so I'm just going to align that. So there's 3 stacked bars above each other. Beautiful. With our A, I'm going to get rid of this bit. So I've just created a new square object, doesn't matter what object, even if it's a line, as long as I'm separating these two. I've got 2 separate objects. So I've highlighted both of them. I'm going to Pathfinder and I'm going to divide. Now what I'm going to do is this interior shape will create an invisible object when I divide. It actually allocates this white space here. So what I would normally do is I'd ungroup and just hold what I want and I'd delete everything else. The reason why I'll show you that why not to do that. So ungroup. So if I do this individually and take one thing at a time, if I go to Y, this is just white, just shows me some outlines where my marks are. I actually got a little random shape here. So go back. So it's actually picking the internal. It divides that internal line as well. So most times that can be a little bit annoying. So I'll just delete that so we only have our one shape that we're working with. I'm just going to use my minus, my pen tool again, and I'm just going to remove those points. See you later. Bye-bye. There we go. Now I'm just going to drop that down because that's a nitpicky thing. Okay, I'm just going to do another one. Shape. So make sure I've got my 2 shapes selected. I'm going to divide it again. I'm going to ungroup, hold R. So because I've held R, I don't have that invisible internal shape. Just going to minus with my pen tool. So get rid of that point. And then I'm going to click and drag to make sure that I've selected those 2 points. And I'm going to use my align tool and I'm going to align that down. So this time I'll click one point there and I'll hold shift and I'll click the other one. Oh, it didn't like that. So click that one, holding shift, click the second one, move it up. There we go. So there we can see that we've actually customized our shape. Let's make this a bit cooler. Going to cut those 2 out again. Pathfinder, divide, ungroup, delete those 2, remove, And what have we got here? It's quite like the angle that was going on, so I might bring him in and just pull him out. So what I've done there is actually manipulated and moved the anchor points to suit my own graphic. So I can delete him now. I think that's quite a nice line. No, I hate it. Anyway, you get the point. So with this, we've got a couple of extra points. When you start removing some of this detail, you actually might affect some of those those lines and those shapes. So sometimes it's worthwhile just leaving them as is. Yeah, that's better. Look at that. Try and make that line that works. Another thing I could do is, if I really like that line, I could actually just copy, paste in front. I'm going to move him over. And see, what I'm going to use is this A shape. Sorry, words lose me these days. The angle of this diagonal A. And I'm going to manipulate that. I think that'll look better. So I'll just click and drag these two bottom lower points. Just going to move him to intersect with that. And I'm going to cut him out here. So what I'll do is I'll divide those two. I'll go to my Pathfinder, cut, ungroup. Let's have a look. Yeah, that looks a little bit different, doesn't it? Sorry, that is pretty terrible. Anyway, for the purpose of this, I'll move on. But it's all a bit of an experimentation in the play. But yeah, we can see what we're doing. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more of an idea of how to cut and edit with the Pathfinder. And now we'll sort of look at doing it with the shape as well. So what we'll do here is we'll add in a swatch with a nice green. I'm going to double click that swatch and I'm going to make it global, because global gives me the ability to change the percentage of my colour. Now I don't want a key line, so I'll remove the stroke over on the left hand side. I'll remove that. I do want that, so I'm going to even eye pick it. So clicking eye or using my eyedropper, there's another way to actually acquire that colour. And I'm going to choose a nice brown. Going to remove that stroke. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to use a Pathfinder and cut out that stroke here. So I'm just going to put a white stroke swatch. White. On my stroke panel, I can increase the stroke, but I can put it on the outside by aligning it. So at the moment, the stroke is aligned to the center of the object. I can align it to the internal, or I can align it to the external. So I think the external is what we want for this. I'm going to increase my point size to 6. I think that looks neat. And so what I'm going to do, I'll show you with the outlines again. So Command Y. So even though I've got applied a stroke, I'm still not knocking it out underneath. So the reason why you want to knock it out on a logo, go back to Y, is if this object was placed on a background. So say if I had a background behind it, I'm going to have a white. I'm going to have a white object line there, and I don't actually want that. So if you're doing a logo, for instance, and it sits on top of an image of, say this is a sky or whatnot, you actually want to cut this element out, so you actually don't want it to appear. The best way to do that is Object, Expand Appearance, and so now you can see that this is no longer a stroke. I've actually made that an object. The problem with this object is that it doesn't slice it perfectly. So we actually do need to use our Pathfinder to cut it out. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm actually going to highlight my pear and my stalk and its object, its stroke, beg your pardon, and I'm going to use my Pathfinder and cut it out. So now if we go to Y, Command Y in my outlines, you can see that I've actually created all of this these stroke paths. So we'll just go back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup. So Command-Shift-G, ungroup. I'm going to select the white because I know that this is the only time I've applied white into this context. I'm going to just click on one shape. I'm going to go to select. I'm going to go select same, and I'm going to select same fill color. So by doing this select same and same fill color, what I've done by that is I've picked all of the white that's in this document and I'm simply going to delete. So when we go to our outlines again, Command Y, you can see we don't have those double lines that were happening before, and we've cut out our object around internally on our pair. So go back to Command Y. Command Y is just a viewing. It's just a preview of the lines. It's not how it appears on print, or it's just a preview. So because these two stalks have been cut, and they've been cut when we've divided the green pear and the stalk, I'm just going to put them back together again. So click the two objects into our shape mode and select them. So now we have this one object and two objects. So if we go back to our background, and so if this was on a picture of blue sky, we now no longer have this white area, this white line. So they're just the simple ways of using Pathfinder. Aha, see, I've got my hidden object there. So remember when I Pathfinder divided, I had a hidden internal object. Just need to delete that. So I'm just going to edit him again. I'm not going to touch these points because I don't want to change that too much. I'm just going to bring that up using my just white arrow and just having a bit of a play graphically. This little shape happening. I'm going to throw them on a bit of an angle, so by selecting the whole objects, the whole three things that we've got, 1, 2, 3, throw them on an angle. Rotate him around, it's a bit funny. Right, I'm just going to show you a little bit about colouring while we've got a little bit of time. And I say by time, I've just got my son downstairs, so I've still got a little bit of time. I'll show you a little bit about gradients. Because we've got a global colour, and that's indicated by that little triangle, I'm going to just put a gradient on here just to give it a little bit of depth, just to show you. Just going to click and drag that colour swatch into that little swatch down at the bottom of my gradient. I'm going to do it on this side as well. Now I have two options here. So I can make it an opacity, so I can make it 20%. So while I'm looking at this object as a whole, on a white background it looks great because I've got a white background, but if I were to put my sky behind it, I lose the left hand side of that gradient because I have applied an opacity to it. So just be wary that if you were to use this method, that if this logo was to appear on top of another colour, that you actually lose that depth. So that's just one option though, and there is a purpose for that, and it's more like a vignette. I would use it as a vignette. So if I'm using an image or something, that I would overlay it on top of another colour and put a multiply on it. But that's another story for another day. So I'll just go back to opacity and I'll just put that back to 100. Now because I've applied this colour, I'll just select that first colour, first little swatch. I'll go to my colour and I actually can change it here. So I'm still using the colour at a density, an ink density. I'm not using it at opacity, but I can just tell it how much I want to put in there. So I might just want it at 30%. So I can actually, that's why we do the global colours, is that we can change the tint of it. So going back to my gradient, I can actually apply a radial. So what's kind of cool about the radial, if I go select just G, or I can click here on my little gradient tool, I can actually move this around. So I can apply where I want that highlight to sit, and I can also increase my gradient, but I can also change it as well. So I have the ability to manipulate. I can drag it, rotate it around, I can redo a new one. Just gives me some flexibility to where my sliders are. So I'll go back. So you can see here I've got my sliders, so I can change the intensity. Words really, I'm struggling with my words. Change the intensity of that gradient. So if I apply swatch, oops, if I apply that, so we don't have that opacity anymore, but we still have that nice depth in that green. We can apply that. Say if I wanted to apply a little highlight, I'm just going to copy and paste the object in front by Command Copy, Command F. I'm just going to pull this up here. So I've duplicated this object. Just going to do it again. Command C, Command F. Just going to go up here. Just going to increase his size. What am I going to put in? Let's put this white one here. I'll just put him in white. I might move that there. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get a nice little highlight, really thin, and without having too much fuss, rather than drawing it. Grab the two. So I've got the two objects there. I'm just going to divide it with my Pathfinder. Divide, Command Shift G, and I'm just going to hold Shift and select the white. Delete the rest. So now all I have is that little white line. There we go. Delicious. We've got a little highlight. Scrolling down, there's up here. Oh, that's looking all right. You know, for a quick show. I'm going to just grab this. I'm going to grab a bit of a texture. This is just something that I found online. It's a free grunge texture. I'm just going to pop it over. I'm going to paste him in here. So copy it and paste. Rotate him. I'm going to change his colour to white. I'll grab these. So I'm just going to grab my text. By Command Shift and upper bracket, I can bring that to the front. And I'm just going to lock it. So I'm just going to go Command 2. And that's just going to lock my object so it's no longer editable. So the only things that are editable right now are just the pair. Just looking at how that texture is going to sit. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Problem is if we go Y, we can see that we've got lots of detail there. So it's a lot of detail for a logo. And we want to remove it. So same if we show our background. So that's what will appear. So we need to make sure that we knock it out. So I'm going to just do it bit by bit. Just going to put that in the back for a second. I'm going to first divide this. So I'm going to divide the highlighter so that way we only have that green shape. So at the moment we're looking at no longer having a white shape. So we've knocked that out. Now, this is where it might take a little bit of rendering. It takes a little bit of time to just be wary with a detailed grunge that we do actually have a lot of memory and it does chug our computers. So I'm just going to select all. Now I might lose my colour, but I'm just going to divide all of that. Now see, I've got the chugging now. So by this I might get one colour. So this is probably the back ways to do it. But I'm essentially applying the divide filter so that way there's no background. I can actually only select the colours that I want. I'm just going to ungroup. There we go. So I'm going to select that one single white little graphic over here, whatever little dot. Select, same, fill colour. Now it's going to pick all the white. I'm just going to delete it. And so we've got this nice little texture. Let's have a look. Put a blue on the background. Oops. So our object there, all cut out, easy peasy. So, you know, it's not it's not my greatest design. I'm not going to say it is my greatest design by any means, but hopefully it's a good demonstration of how to create your own shapes, create your own, you know, using texture, using color. We've covered the text, so I'll just object and I'll unlock all. So now I can access these. So how we can customize our text and move things around, erase, and all essentially this is basically using the Pathfinder. We're just using the Unite tool and the Divide. There are others as well, so have a bit of a play. So some of them knock out internals, some of them don't. So have a little play on how those paths work within your own time. But those two essentially of how I've done these this exercise. And also it is all about those points, so using a white arrow. So moving those points around. Get familiar with the pen tool and the white arrow and how to manipulate and cut and edit. Alrighty guys, probably the last time I'll speak to you before I have a baby because it's not far off now. Ooh, I can see some funny objects flipping around out here. If you ever worry, just select same, fill colour, and it'll take out those. It's pretty solid. Alright, so good luck guys. I hope that was alright. Take care, bye.